Okay, we are here in front of We Energies, ready to start a press conference. We have a good crowd of people out here. We have a lot of dedicated people that want to see We Energies transition off of coal quicker rather than the delays that they've recently announced. So Elizabeth Ward from the Sierra Club is going to start us off.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Elizabeth Ward. I'm the director of the statewide branch of the Sierra Club. We're here today to respond to We Energy's announcement that they will postpone the retirement of the Oak Creek coal plant by 1 year. Today, we're calling on them to do better and create a plan to get to 100% clean energy. Delaying the retirement of the year by 1 year could mean 2.5 million tons of carbon dioxide, 2.4 deaths, an additional hospital admission, including an asthma ER visit, a heart attack, over one case of bronchitis, over 26 additional asthma attacks, and over 126 lost work days. 1 year might not seem long, and those numbers might not seem big, but if you're one of the people suffering from those asthma attacks, or it's your family who has to miss work, it can be overwhelming and life-changing. And these numbers don't even take into account climate change and the damage that will be caused by it. Leaving coal plants online or doubling down with fossil fuels by investing in gas is only going to fuel climate change. And unfortunately, we're getting a glimpse of what that looks like right now, with wildfires in the West and extreme heat waves and the harms that are being caused around the world. We need to take these events and these numbers seriously and consider them a stark warning of what's to come if we don't act. We know what we need to do. We need to switch our energy systems to clean energy in line with Governor Evers' executive task force. Today, we're calling on We Energies to create a plan to do that. I'm joined by 4 amazing speakers today that will talk about how important this is. First up, we have Sister Janet Weicker, a former neighbor of the coal plant.
Thank you, Elizabeth. The word disappointment seems inadequate to describe the feeling that I and the members of the Southeast Wisconsin Clean Coalition felt when we heard the announcement that the coal plant was going to be delayed by another year, the coal-burning power plant at Oak Creek. As founding director of the Eco-Justice Center, I spent 17 years. I lived and worked in the shadow of that coal power plant. Daily, I heard the coal trains rumble by and see the plumes from the smokestacks. Dust, noise, and other forms of pollution, invisible to the eye and the ear, are being emitted into the air and the water on a daily basis. The environmental effects of We Energy's power plant stand in sharp contrast to the mission of the Eco-Justice Center, which is to provide environmental education, protect ecosystems, and model sustainable living on a 15-acre site located just 2 miles south of the Oak Creek power plant. In 2006, while the Eco-Justice Center was installing solar panels for electricity and hot water, laying in a geothermal system for heating and cooling the farmhouse that was built green as an addition, and in 2010, when it was putting up a 10K wind turbine, We Energies was building a larger coal power plant, burning more coal. One of the educational activities of the EJC, as we call the center, has been teaching organic gardening. The staff and volunteers wonder how the pollution from those smokestacks might be affecting the vegetables we were growing. One of the sisters who lived at the center had breathing and heart problems. She would check the wind direction and the air quality before planning to spend any time out of doors. If the wind was from the west or the north, she would not venture out because of the pollution it carried. With an added 12 to 18 months delay, in closing parts of this plant, how many more people will die early or develop lung and heart problems? Why did this delay happen? It is said it's because of unexpected high energy demands and supply chain issues. But what is the real cause? When you come down to it, it is the lack of urgency and inadequate planning. This year's report from the Intergovernmental Climate Change Panel stated that we are in code red for humanity because of the climate crisis. The burning of fossil fuel, especially coal, is a leading contributor to the emissions that are causing this climate crisis. The delay in closing the Oak Creek plant contributes to that crisis. Any energy produced from burning fossil fuels, especially coal, is not cheap or affordable. Consider the added health and environmental costs that will be incurred by extending those coal burning units until 2024-25. How many more cases of asthma, heart disease, and cancer will people experience? How much more mercury, arsenic, and lead will be released into the atmosphere and environment? It is good that We Energies is still committed to increasing its use of solar and wind energy. However, the supply chain shortages are slowing down their transition to renewable energy. This must change. It seems like a vicious cycle. As the disastrous effects of climate change get greater, the demand for energy increases. Climate change, the world economy, war, and COVID have all contributed to supply shortages. Yes, our planet is in code red. So what can we do? Keep demanding the end of coal burning power plants. Set thermostats to save energy. Turn off lights, drive less, and eat a more plant-based diet. And what do I want We Energies to do? Better planning. Speed up closing all burning plants. Invest more in renewable energy. And don't substitute oil or gas for coal. Provide for a just job transition for your employees. And don't sock ratepayers with the cost of transition while your company rakes in record profits. We all need electrical energy, but it needs to come from renewable sources. We don't have a lot of time to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Janet. While We Energies has lacked leadership in this area, the city and county of Milwaukee have demonstrated leadership in helping us get to 100% clean energy. Next, we'll hear from Milwaukee Supervisor Stephen Shea.
My fellow Wisconsinites, we're here today because our planet is at an ecological breaking point. We are seeing this planet record a higher average temperature each passing year. Last week, England recorded a temperature of 104 degrees, the highest in its history. And considering it's England, you know that's a long history. We're seeing wildfires consume more and more of our planet's vegetation. In Slovenia, over the weekend, wildfires set off unexploded ordnance left over from World War I. We're seeing severe storms at a rate 5 times as often as we did just a half century ago. The ice shelves of Greenland and Antarctica are melting at a rate not even thought possible just a few years ago. This is all because of the buildup of carbon in our atmosphere to the highest levels in recorded history, and this is the result of the continued burning of fossil fuels. So, what is We Energies doing about this? Well, it is determined to burn more coal and foul our air, drinking water, and planet. If anyone tries to build solar farms and sell the collected electricity, it threatens to sue. We Energies is more interested in profit than it is in saving our planet or protecting its own customers' health. One of my first public acts as a Milwaukee County Supervisor was to speak at a listening session when We Energies wanted to dump more coal into Lake Michigan. Coal ash into Lake Michigan. I and every speaker there opposed that measure that puts more mercury in our drinking water. We who care about this planet for the benefit of future generations call upon We Energies to change its ways and move away from fossil fuels to renewables. We call upon We Energies to put the health of this planet and its customers ahead of its own greed. The time isn't a few generations or years down the road. The time is now. Other countries are already committed to being carbon neutral by 2030, just 7 years from now. In Europe, solar farms and wind turbines are more common than belching smokestacks. Wisconsinites are tired of hearing that our energy utilities can't do what is already being done elsewhere. This is the biggest moral question of our time. Do we want a habitable planet, or do we want more ignorance and greed? I choose the former, not the latter. Let's save our planet. Thank you.
We Energies has an opportunity as they work through this transition to also mitigate some of the other harms they're causing. Right now, Black, Latinx, and Hispanic neighborhoods in Milwaukee face a higher energy burden than white neighborhoods in Milwaukee, partially because of We Energies practices. Kiva Gaiden, a energy burden organizer with Citizen Action's Northside Rising, is here to speak about that.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiva Gaiden, and I am here today to speak on behalf of Citizen Action, a group that organizes communities across Wisconsin to stand up and speak the truth. And I'm here to tell you the truth about We Energies. We know that it is the people of Wisconsin who suffer the most when big companies like We Energies decide to delay a coal plant retirement. It is families living closest to the Oak Creek plant who will suffer from the pollution. They will suffer from things like asthma attacks, bronchitis, missed days of school and work as they struggle to figure out how to pay for rising energy costs because dirty energy is expensive. We Energies, its high-paid executives should have been for a transition off of fossil fuels years ago to avoid this. They need a real and just transition plan so this does not happen again. We call on the utility executives today, the people who are responsible for these delays and have known for decades about the consequences of burning and relying on fossil fuels to change their operating procedures. That status quo doesn't work anymore. There are 6 coal plants in the state of Wisconsin. Milwaukee is located between 2 coal plants, which are Sheboygan and Racine. Sheboygan is 57.7 miles and Racine is 30.4 miles away from Milwaukee. We Energies continue to use these plants, which directly impact BIPOC communities at an alarming rate. Just within a 3-mile radius of the Sheboygan plant, 23% of the folks affected are folks of color. This also includes 31 schools, 7,894 children. In Racine, at the Elm Road Generating Station, which is also owned by We Energies, puts 13% of color folks at risk versus the state's 16%, which is over half of the folks affected. within 12 miles of the Racine plant, where there are 283 schools and 107,935 children, which is our obligation to protect. These plants impose health risks, as I stated earlier, like asthma, heart attack, bronchitis, and ultimately death. Today, as an energy burden organizer, it's the climate. Today, as an energy burden organizer, I stand here as a strong voice for our communities and demand We Energies to change. To do that, to do what's right for us as human beings and the climate. Invest in clean energy and in energy efficient measures. And while we're here talking to We Energies, let's get a couple of things clear. We don't want coal plant closure. We don't want you to just transition these plants to natural gas. That isn't clean and it isn't good for our communities. We want We Energy assistance programs aimed first at helping families struggling to pay their bills. And fourth of all, we need a real transition to clean energy. Thank you.
And finally, we'll hear from State Senator Chris Larson, who has worked tirelessly to put Wisconsin on a path to 100% clean energy. If We Energies demonstrated a kernel of interest in doing the same thing, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Thank you. Thank you to Sierra Club for putting this together. And I know I saw an advocate from Midwest Environmental Advocates here as well, and to all the groups and all the volunteers who stepped out here today to say that we are not accepting the lip service that we have been getting from We Energies, and appreciation of the press for showing up and making sure that this is heard. What we have is our voices, because we live in a state, unfortunately, that's gerrymandered, and because of the national power of fossil fuel industry, it becomes really tough to actually try and get the policy that we need. But we have the people on our side, we have the polls on our side, and that's what we're going to use, that's what we're using today to amplify that. So I'm speaking today as a state senator who represents the area immediately east of here, and including the Oak Creek Power Plant, and have been opposed to the power plant since it started, and have been asking for it to be decommissioned and wound down as quickly as possible. So I was very excited when the original news came out from We Energies that said that they were going to be sunsetting the coal power plant. But unfortunately, that pinky promise is no substitute for policy. And so in their infinite wisdom, where they had the choice of continuing to boost rates, continuing to make more profit, or doing the right thing and doing the thing that they said that they were going to do, they went the road of choosing more profit. And they went the route of saying, oh my gosh, can you believe energy expectations have gone up? Who could have foreseen this? And because they did not have any obligation other than the greenwashing attempt that they did to say that this is what we intend to do, they backtracked and are using that as an excuse to put off the sunset of the coal-burning power plant and sunsetting other non-clean, non-renewable energy sources. And let's be clear about where we are here, right? Because I think it's important that we in Wisconsin are paying above average energy rates from the rest of the country, above average. At the same time, we are below average in terms of how much renewable energy we are using. We are among the lowest in the country. And so when they end up using as an excuse, oh, we have to raise rates because we're trying to move to renewable, how are we expected to believe, or how is anyone expected to believe, that Wisconsin is the only state in the country that can't figure this out, right? And so I get that they can pay for high-powered executives, they can pay for the best talking points and the best spokespeople that money can buy, but that doesn't mean we're going to buy it. That doesn't mean the same talking points that worked before are going to work now. And so that's why we're out here demanding better, demanding that We Energies put proof to what they are doing. It reminds me of I mean, being a dad, and anybody here who's a parent, when you hear your kids saying, "Oh no, I'm getting to it, I'm about to get to it," especially if it's a report that's due. But in this case, it's something they said that they were going to do, so they're putting off their own deadline, and so we are here as parents, as the adults, as the ones who are trying to usher in something that's more responsible, to say it's time to do it. We've heard from great speakers outlining the impacts of individual health. As somebody who's had asthma since I was 5 years old, I feel that to my bones. And as the uncle of a nephew who lives just downwind from the Oak Creek Power Plant and developed asthma, feel the responsibility to do more to make sure that no other child develops asthma, that we are reducing those asthma attacks that are caused by coal-burning power plants, and doing what we can. And of course, in the long run, right, that we're all feeling the results of climate change on the big picture. We have to do something about this. This is more than just trying to greenwash and say that they're doing the right thing. It's time that we bring binding regulations that turn pinky promises into actionable commitments and policy. Thank you.